All right, welcome back to the Crypto and Coffee podcast, everyone. I'm joined today by Cordell Tanny and David Blackstone, my two co-hosts, as per usual. And I highly advise you guys grab a cup of coffee, tea, bottle of water, whatever, as we, dive into episode 12 today. And in today's episode, we have a little bit of a controversial topic, I might add. Um, we're talking a little bit more about AI in the workforce industry. So, Cordell, David, I'd like to ask a very big question. Do you think AI will replace humans for certain tasks in the near future? That is something that I've been thinking about for the past 2 weeks, since our previous episode. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. That's pretty much it. Yes. I absolutely think it will replace it. I mean, like, just, based on just even for myself, how much using Claude Code and building my own agents for certain tasks is just, saving me the insane amount of time. What I can get done now in a day would have used to have taken me about a week. So it's not just building, let's say, all the code applications, trading strategies. It's come to the point right now, I'm not sure if I told you guys this. At one point, I found a research paper with a trading strategy. It fed it into Claude and had it design the prompt for Claude Code. It coded out the entire investment strategy. I had the whole thing done in about 5 minutes. And I haven't even read the paper. So I've got this working trading strategy. Quite frankly, I know what it is, but I didn't actually read the paper. I didn't even need to. This thing took the paper, wrote the code, and it was a pretty good investment strategy, actually. So yeah, no, it's pretty amazing. And the other thing I would say, so what have I done, let's say, with agents and really starting to replace the manual tasks? And I think just really leads into who I believe is most at risk. I think everybody's at risk a little bit. But, so now, every month I have to do a monthly expense report for my company for all of my work-related expenses that I cover personally, and I have to reimburse myself. It's all done by AI now. I have an agent that just accesses the folder with all the receipts, produces it, gets the exchange rates that I need from US to Canadian dollars for some of my expenses. And it's almost come to the point. We're not there yet because the banks don't let you do it. But I'm sure in the next couple of months or by the end of the year, the agent will be able to execute the transfer of the funds from one bank account to another. So, that's just a great example of something easy, but that could easily take me an hour a month to do my expense report. Or the other things that I've set up agents for is within the investment strategies, determining any index, so I have a lot of strategies that need to know everything that's in the S&P 500, everything that's in the Canadian stock index. So I have an agent that now goes through every company in the index, finds deletions, additions, are there any M&A targets? So I have to remove my M&A targets from the analysis. So this is all stuff that I was doing, with just coding myself in Python. Now I don't do it at all. So, these are just examples. So, if I was a lawyer and I used it to do I have some taxes which are really easy to do that don't require an accountant, I had the AI do it for me, and it's doing an incredible job. I'd be very nervous right now as an accountant, a paralegal. I think everybody should be a little bit nervous because these are just great examples of how I'm using it, and it's saving me a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And do you think, later down the line, there's going to be a lot of layoffs in probably, let's say, the next 4 years, in 2030, right? Because as you just said, right, and I think as David said on a previous episode, right, we can probably give AI some of the most mundane tasks or some of the most even dangerous tasks, working in construction, even packaging stuff and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts on that, David?
Yeah, I think that it will take over some of the jobs. I think it already has, and I think that things will progress with that. The question there is not, in my opinion, it's not so much of an if, but a how much. For example, I think that most C-suite executives and most investors are going to think that AI can do everything, and I don't think it can. For example, in software development, you can have the AI take a lot of the job over. You can have it do a lot of the boilerplate, but what this does is not remove the developers. It upgrades the developers. The developers have to think about architecture now. They have to think about quality. Whereas before, you'd see all these interviews, you'd have people pretending that they're better than other developers because they can remember more syntax. It's like, well, I remember how to do a for loop in this. You don't. Like, well, okay, but I code in 5 different languages. Like, I look up the syntax. I think about how to approach the problem, not the language itself. And now you have everyone upgrading to that. Now you have people saying like, well, now I don't even interview about languages. Now I interview about how to solve the problem. Great. Now you finally caught up. Now you're where you're supposed to be. Like, because we live in an age where you have all of these different languages, and you can and now the AI will parse that. So now people had to upgrade. So now they're not flexing about being at the lower level and thinking, well, okay, yeah, I think so deeply in this language. Now they're thinking, well, now, yeah, we have to think about the architecture now. And that's how things have always been. Like, people don't just do it. They have to get dragged along kicking and screaming. And that's how it always happens. Like, nature doesn't just give with both hands. It basically forces you to follow along. If you don't follow along, you're going to be left behind. And so that's what things have happened. That's how things have happened within the development. But with regards to leadership, that's where the problem is going to be, because while these developers, let me qualify that. It is a tool. So you have developers who are lazy and they're going to use this to be more lazy. You have developers who are willing to think around the problem. They're going to use this to think around the problem. It's going to amplify what they were already doing. Now, with regards to the leadership, that's where I see the problem happening, because if leadership thinks that the AI can do everything, then they're going to operate on that belief. Arguments don't happen the way that people think that they do. It isn't 2 or 3 people debating ideas and saying their side, bringing forth the arguments, and then deciding, oh yeah, you know what, you are right. I was wrong. Let me change my belief. That's not how arguments happen. The way that arguments happen is, no, you're not going to tell me I'm wrong. I'm right. I'm going to prove I'm right. And they're going to continue. With that line of thought up until they're proven wrong and dragged along, kicking and screaming to align to the truth. That's the way that arguments happen. So when leadership says that AI can take over all these jobs, when investors say that AI is going to take over all these jobs, so fire your workforce because we're not going to invest in people who keep on all these developers, then what's going to happen is they're going to fire everyone. They're going to realize that they can't do the job anymore, and they're going to have to rehire people. And we've seen a good bit of that already.
I'm not sure which company it was. I think it was probably Telegram, but this billion-dollar company had like not more than like 30 people in the workforce. They didn't have like an HR department, anything like that, and like they used AI a lot. I'm not sure what company it is. I have to like check back again. But yeah. So what are your thoughts on, like, let's say AI and robotics right now, right? Because I did see a video of like Amazon using some AI robotics to package goods or like send them off. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, first I'd have to ask, is robotics AI, right? I mean, like just take, for example, I think it really depends on the tasks that the robots are performing. So, and if there are any robots out there listening right now, please, I don't mean to offend anyone. So, but, if you think about, go back to, let's say, 5, even 10 years ago, and take a company like, what's it called? Intuitive Surgical, that have been creating robots for surgeries for a long time now. And their machinery is absolutely incredible. Like they designed a wrist that could move like 360 degrees, that could, do things that no human doctor could do, or the precision of making an incision with the scalpel is just incredible. But is that AI? And if you still have a human pulling the strings, let's say, is that AI. So to what extent the robots have to reason and solve problems, because otherwise I would argue that, the assembly line created by Ford, well, is that AI? That's robotics. So, I think it really depends to how much reasoning they're actually doing, because ultimately that's the definition that we tend to use for AI, right? It's a computer system that could make decisions in a way that a human brain would, hopefully, better decisions. But I don't know if I would call that AI. I mean, I think the degree of robotics is becoming staggering. It's crazy. I think I was talking about this with David a few minutes ago, those videos that we saw circulating through the social media circuits of, the martial arts, the robots in China doing martial arts. That was insane, seeing that stuff. Or seeing it with this, I'm hoping they were fake swords, but that was absolutely incredible stuff that I was seeing. But is that AI, or is that just a robot executing an algorithm, a preset of movements? Because, well, that, we're getting into some gray areas here. So, that's robotics and automation. Okay, that can take jobs, but is that AI? I think we're gonna, really have to split hairs over what is AI and what isn't.
Well, yeah, there would be a bit of it really depends what definition you take. Within software development, well, within the realm of anyone that's studied AI within software development, which is a very small subset, you have the definitions for machine learning and artificial intelligence. Now, with machine learning, you have the thought that the machine is learning. You give it a data set and it has these algorithms. It goes over its data. It learns how to solve this very defined problem. Now, machine learning is used within AI, but it isn't the full realm of AI. Generally, what AI was referring to within this subset of the specialty was any time you have a computer mimicking what a human would do within the situation, like what an intelligent being would do within the situation. So if you have a human pretending to be an NPC, like playing a character, then the computer taking over that character would be effectively an AI. So if like this includes all the way down to the finite state machine, which is just a predefined set of states that the system moves through to mock out simple actions. This would be like a pig eating, running away, trying to fight, or sleep, depending on what happens within the environment. So like you can go very, very low level with these. You can go to a very, very specified point on these and still have it be AI by that definition. So if you were to have robots taking over the factory, well, yeah, you could do that, and that would count as AI by this definition. By the general public definition of being general AI, the logical thinking being, the one with consciousness and one that can think ahead. Now, but how many humans are like that? Honestly, like how many humans are introspective and able to think more than the next day ahead? How many are able to remember more than what happened in the news cycle over the last year? So, like, yeah, maybe computers can't do it, but how many humans can? It really depends on what level of IQ you're taking there. So, because yeah, virtualization takes IQ. That's a very definite measure of IQ. And if you can't do it, well, you can't really criticize a computer for not being able to do it. Now, with regards to the robotics, like with what's happening in China, yeah, there's a limit there, and we don't know what that limit is because we don't have access to their internals. But what we can see is that over here with Boston Dynamics and with Elon Musk's Tesla robots, or whatever name he gave to his systems for that, then. Just side note, it's a little weird that he names his kids with more characters than he does his companies. But with regards to the robotics over here, they're still doing like the movements that you see on a robot dance for a performer on the street. Meanwhile, China's robots, like they're able to actually move with liquidity, with form, which is why they're able to do martial arts now. And with the movements they're able to take now versus the dance that they did last year, 2 years ago, it's a very stark difference. They're moving with a lot more liquidity, a lot more flow within the movements, which is the exact direction that you want to take if you want to make robots that have lifelike movements, especially once you have the base layer. Like, for example, with code, once you have to get an agentic AI, you first have to make the code that it's going to connect to. So these robots being able to move freely would be the first step. Then you layer on the AI on top of it. But they're building their AIs too, and those are being made sustainably. They're focusing on price. They're focusing on making a profitable business. Over here, we're just trying to win at all costs. If you remember back to Soviet era, like the Cold War, we're basically in that position. They were trying to win. They were throwing money at the problem. We're throwing money at the problem now, but we're not doing anything sustainably. We don't have the money to do this. So if you have, which is why OpenAI, which has had billions and billions of dollars thrown at it, is losing billions and billions of dollars every quarter and begging the government for handouts. Like you had Anthropic deny requests from the government, and OpenAI said, "Hey, we'll do the bad stuff. Come on, buy us," and they got rightfully backlash for that. China's not having that problem because their models are sustainable. Their models cost a fraction of what they cost us. So like, maybe the AI is not there, but it will be because they have a sustainable business model. We don't. And like I mentioned before this,
sorry, David.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask you a question on that?
Sure.
Okay, because we always use OpenAI as the example for that. Do you think that same thing holds true for all of the companies? Do you think that holds true for Google with Gemini and for Anthropic, or is that just an issue specific to OpenAI?
I've tried Google's cheaper models, and they don't stack up against DeepSeek. You have to throw in a lot more layering on the prompt in order to get it to operate in a fraction, and in like, let's say 3/4 of the manner that DeepSeek would. You're going to get a cheaper output, marginally cheaper, but you're going to still have to prompt it. You're still going to have to make sure that it has all these examples of edge cases. Otherwise, but DeepSeek can still do that intuitively. You don't have to give it as many examples. You don't have to give it as large of a prompt for roughly the same price point. So yeah, I would say that would be the same for pretty much all Western models. Now, Claude does well, but Claude does well based off of its integrations. It's the integrations that allow it to do very well. Now, with China's models, I don't know about their integrations, but it's very, very difficult to get that information over here because the West does not tell you very much of anything. If you want to get that information, you have to go onto alternative platforms where people are sharing that stuff. And where's that going to be? Like RedNote, yeah. Like anything controlled by Tencent, yeah, you can go to those. Over in the Western media, we're not going to talk about it. Because that would be a danger to OpenAI, that would be a danger to Anthropic, that would be a danger to Apple, that would be a danger to Microsoft. We want everyone to believe that we're the best, even when there's no evidence. And when you have no evidence for that, what do? You hide the evidence that to the contrary. So you have to deny it. You have to keep people from seeing it. So if we want to, if you have companies overseas that have robotics built into their phones, and we don't, then you hide that. If you have multi-touch screen systems for laptops, and we don't, then that's going to be something that you hide until we have the same thing, and you're going to hide the information rather than try to compete with it. And that's what's been happening. For example, when we talked about this beforehand, and this also goes into the AI stuff, like our level of AI versus theirs. If our AIs were getting Wile E. Coyote, how much do you think the media would be talking about that? they're not talking about it very much. You have to go to alternative sources outside the U.S. to find that information. Like, for example, going over to like maybe you don't trust BRICS news for this. So go to Africa. Find African news that's talking about this. Find global news, just global news. Anyone that's not from within the U.S. and Israel, considering they're also in this war, they're probably a more credible source than the U.S. right now. So like, we're getting wily coyoted over there, and that's the level of AI that we're at. You have people like I mentioned, the example that I mentioned. You have people painting pictures of jet fighters onto the ground, and then our guys just sending a plane over there saying, "Hey, bomb the planes." And so it finds a picture of a plane, 2D picture, bombs that, and then says, "Okay, mission achieved." This is not quite the level of AI that you want AI to be replacing people at. That's not it. It's not there yet. But
No,
that's what they're doing.
agree.
And
So
the example that I gave before on that, they really should have known about this, because what did they have? They had training setups where they were testing this, where they very literally got the soldiers to try to sneak up on this thing, and told it to identify soldiers that were coming. So basically, imagine you're playing paintball against what people are trying to set up as the next Terminator, and you see how stupid it is. So you walk around with a couple of sticks, with leaves on them, like not even the full ghillie suit, just a couple of sticks, and you call yourself a tree, and it can't identify you because this has branches. Clearly, it's not a soldier. It must be a tree. Or you put a box over yourself like Solid Snake, and you sneak up on it, like within the moving box, and it can't identify you as a soldier because this is a box. Clearly, it's just a box. There's no one underneath it. It's a box. Well, yeah, that's the level of AI that you had in Metal Gear games. That's not the kind of AI that you want on a battlefield making decisions instead of your soldiers. So, like, our level of AI is atrocious, especially with the amount of money that we're spending on it, involuntarily, I might add, because it's coming out through taxes.
Yeah.
So, because when we talk about this at the same time, who's at risk, and how much AI is actually starting to penetrate the entire workforce. I found this week that Anthropic had started tracking, because I was looking for an index, something that would tell me to measure how many layoffs or what kind of impact we're seeing from AI on the workforce in terms of replacing humans. So Anthropic released a paper, and they've been starting to measure it. They found this, they're measuring it in their methodology by going through every industry, identifying which tasks, like normal tasks, could be replaced by an LLM, by an agent, and then seeing, are companies doing that yet? So that way it's like their observed exposure. It's how many tasks have we identified that could be done by AI, and then how many companies are actually using AI to do those tasks. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty interesting, the findings, because I'm sure you can guess immediately which domain has had the highest observed exposure. I think you don't even need to think about that. Which do you think have the most tasks that could be done by AI being used right now, that are actually using AI? Like, which industry do you think is doing it the most?
I'm gonna let Gio take that one, because I already had assumptions and I saw that chart.
Oh, you saw it? Okay.
I think logistics would be one, if I'm not mistaken.
You mean like trucking?
Yeah, shipping and manufacturing. I think like stuff like that.
Actually, I don't remember seeing that one on the list, but number one's computer programmers. And I think I have it right here. Do I have it? Yeah, here it is. Okay, I found the chart. Mm-hmm. So computer programmers' observed exposure is 75%. So essentially, they're saying the 75% of tasks that computer programmers can do is now being done by AI. So I'm not surprised by that. But the other ones that are customer service representatives, I mean, a lot of what we're seeing here in the top ones on the list are exactly the areas that you would expect to be most at risk. Because, if you think about it, I'm not going to say they're easy to implement, but we're also looking at the areas with the least amount of risk to a certain degree, right? The least amount of ethical considerations, least amount of public pushback, and the least amount of, using a corporate jargon, which I hate, that you're not messing with mission critical systems, right? As it's terrible jargon. But anyways, you got customer service representatives, data entry keyers are at 67%. So customer service is at 70%. So this means talking with customers, providing information, taking orders. So that means you're getting a huge amount of probably investment on the customer service side, which makes complete sense, right? Because it's time consuming. People are very demanding and usually quite mean. So, let's get a computer to deal with them. But other ones on the list, medical record specialists, which doesn't surprise me given how fragmented the medical records is. Like, records don't talk, the hospitals don't talk to one another. There's no global, medical database that if you get in an accident somewhere in Thailand, that they could just key it in and see all of your allergies and see everything like that. So that's an area I'm not surprised. And there's market research, sales, like wholesalers, doesn't really specify which industries here. And then financial and investment analysts at 57%. So I don't see any sign of legal here or accounting, but I would guess the legal and the accounting side is going to start facing some major disruption. I do think that in terms of the legal aspect, they're always going to say on the AI, look, I'm not a lawyer. Make sure you consult a real lawyer, please, before using this as advice. But the quality of the legal stuff has gotten insanely better over the past year. I mean, have you guys ever tried even looking at a legal aspect, something that affects your company, and just saying, I need to get this done. How would I do it? And trust the AI. Have you tried it yet? An AI for legal advice?
I think I recommended doing that in some part on the last show or 2 shows before this. I think I recommended doing that at some point.
If I remember, you had said take 2 scenarios and put it together. 2 different things and put it knock it up against one another. And using the AI. I think that's what you had said last episode.
Oh yeah, that's right. Now I remember that. Okay. Yeah, because I remember I also told the story about my dad being a retired lawyer and showing him, asked him to work a year ago. He's like, this is crap, and then I showed him this time. I was like, yeah, this is great. So because we got so much bureaucracy here, right? In terms of, let's say, if I need to shut down a corporation, what's involved, filing the final tax return, filling out so many papers and paying this, filing that. So, you do that through a lawyer, they'll easily charge you at least 1,000 Canadian for that, even though it's probably maybe a half hour to an hour of work, just logging into the government websites, checking off a couple of boxes, saying company's dissolved, uploading your articles of, from the shareholders meeting, all this stuff. So, I had to do this, and I used the AI for it, and it did an incredible job. So even just with my taxes, filing some basic taxes for a company that had 0 revenue, you still have to file your tax return. Download the H&R Block software, walked me through every step of the software. I had everything filed within an hour. Instead of having to pay what an accountant easily would have charged me $1,000 for that, even though the company had no revenues or anything like that. So I think that's that those areas are going to be coming up on this list more and more. I mean, but that's a little different, right? Because that's not necessarily companies themselves using AI to do their whole corporate taxes. Like, you're not going to see McDonald's using AI to file their tax returns with the IRS. I don't think you're going to see that. That's a little too crazy, at least not yet. I don't know how we're going to measure it at the individual level. How many of us are now using AI to do our taxes and to do basic legal work that a paralegal, let's say, would have done? Maybe not a lawyer, but a paralegal or some of the, I think we probably agree that a lot of the things that are at risk are the more junior entry level, or the things that are just really repetitive, that don't require the the relationship aspect behind it. It's just repetitive tasks over and over again. I think those are most at risk. So I don't know how we're going to measure all of that, because now we're talking about, the individual just replacing things that they do on a daily basis with the AI. So companies will be affected. I just don't know how we're going to measure the use of it at the individual level.
I think what most people need to understand, like, as AI develops, is it takes a lot more computing power, a lot more resources monetarily to, keep things up. So, as inflation goes on, businesses may or may not have to pay more, even though they're laying off people in these mundane tasks or these repetitive tasks.
Oh, it's not going to cost that much. With regards to the minimum wage, sure.
Yeah.
But with if you get an AI subscription, at the enterprise level, for using Claude as an example, that would be roughly $125. Maybe 120, depending on if you get this is off memory. 120 if you get the not executive package, the whatever the term is, it starts with an E. The company level package versus
Enterprise.
just team.
Business package you're talking
That's
about.
the enterprise level. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, enterprise level. So if you get the enterprise level, that'll be $20 per seat. You have to get a minimum of 20 seats, but then it's going to be $100 or more if you want to throw in more for the credits for each person.
Yeah,
and that is far less than hiring a full team of software developers, which is half the reason they want to do this. Well, the other half being that it's a logical field where you can easily test whether or not you're doing things properly, because if you're doing it wrong, you're going to get the wrong answer. So it's a very, very easy system to test against. But the other side would be that they get to save money. They get to access expertise without having to pay people for it. So you can, instead of spending $100,000 for a developer, or let's say 70,000, let's say 60,000. You get a guy from India, you pay him 60,000, like half the rate of the Americans that you'd be paying. So like you get a $60,000 developer. Well, yeah, do you want that $60,000 developer? Do you want the bugs that he's going to be bringing in? Do you want the issues where he might be working for another company or anything along those lines, or do you want to pay $120 and have one of your senior devs do it? It's going to be a lot lower.
Probably. And it will continue to get lower too. That's just, as time goes on, things are going to get cheaper. So I want to actually ask, I want to turn this in a little bit of a different angle, because we're talking about, the disruption, and, we can sit here and say, yes, okay, these jobs are going to be affected. These jobs are going to be affected. I think most people have read about this enough and they see it. But I think what we're not talking enough about, right now, let's say we get to the point where we have massive use of AI replacing a lot of different jobs or different tasks. Now, think of it this way, all right? How are you going to know, especially if, we still sticking with remote work, how are you going to know if your coworker is like a human or not? So now you might not even know if your coworkers are human.
I have a way, but it'll get you fired.
Sorry?
I have a way, but it'll get you fired.
Okay, share, please. What if you're the boss? And sorry, go ahead, Ed. I'm curious. I want to hear this.
Oh yeah. Just say something that would get you. Say something that HR would be interested in.
Oh, I say something inappropriate. Okay, yeah, that's one way. Probably not the best way. And then now imagine you're the boss. How do you manage a team where half the people need to sleep and the other half are not people and don't need to sleep? So you're going to get challenges at that level. And the other thing I was thinking about is companies are always so big on promoting their corporate culture, right? They're always so big. And that's, I still do a lot of, mentoring, and I help, I know, like I keep saying it, I'm the old man in this podcast here. So I still have to work with a lot of younger university students. I mean, I have all my students at University of Concordia here, and I'm very often giving advice. And a lot of the times you get asked questions, what should I do in a job interview? So I try and help them, ask good questions. It's all about asking good questions. And one question I always would tell people to ask in a job interview is, can you please tell me about the corporate culture? Not even because you really care, just because they want to talk about it. They want to sit there and promote saying how great we are. This is our culture. We're so proud of our corporate culture. And it's important for you to actually hear it, because what if you don't agree with that culture? And they could also just be like BSing you like crazy. And that's not exactly what it's like at all to work at the place. So if you're going to start thinking about, let's say, the corporate culture, how does a corporate culture change when you don't have humans there anymore? what is that going to do to the corporate culture? And if that's a big part of your persona, of your corporate persona, and you're going out there talking about your culture, how is that going to be affected? So, there's so many things like that. And I'm just not convinced that we're prepared for this kind of stuff yet. I think the pace of the transformation, we discussed it, like Claude Code, ridiculous. Now you've got Claude coming in Excel, and then the Claude for financial advisory. I'm not sure if you guys saw this one already. I think it's part of CoWork. Essentially, imagine you're an RIA, you're a financial advisor, you work with clients. Your job is to go find people of the public and try and win their business, meaning to manage their money. So typically, the normal process or flow is you meet a prospect. They're most likely going to give you their existing statements from wherever they are. You're going to do some form of analysis and then come back and give them a pitch on why they should come with you, why you should let them do it. So this Claude for investment management can do all of this for you. My friend tried it out. You put in the statements, it just analyzes it, tells you all the weaknesses in their current portfolio, comes back and gives you a beautiful branded report with your branding. And now you just have to go out and, it's like that's massive level of disruption. And, it's just the speed of which this is coming. I don't think we're ready for it, because when you start factoring in corporate culture, when you start factoring in how many people in theory could be out of work in a very short period of time, and especially college students, come on, this is a terrible time to be graduating and looking for a job. Do you agree with that? Do you think because this is what I feel so bad for so many of these college students now. A lot of the jobs that they would normally be getting, even as interns, just aren't there anymore.
Oh yeah, they recognize that, and they've been making jokes about it, because it's like the final act of the boomers, like the final screw you from the boomers on that, because they bought up everything, ruined the economy, and then thought, hey, you know what? What else can we do? How about if we replace all their jobs with AI?
I don't know. I think it's a really rough time for for students coming out, and I think that's one of the reasons for anyone for our listeners out there that are job seekers, or especially coming out of school. I think at this point, I think you need to learn how to code no matter what field you're in. It's coming to the point every extra skill and every extra layer of experience that you could put on your resume and CV is that much more important. So, I think everybody at this point needs to learn how to do some basic Python, even if it's just basic. You need to learn how to do some, basic automation tasks. I'm not saying everyone has to become an AI programmer and things like that, but you absolutely need to learn the basics of not just prompting, right? Anyone can write a prompt, and yes, I'm sorry, it's experience. You can get very good at writing prompts, but you can use LLMs to write your prompts for other LLMs. But learning how to code, I think at this point, is an absolute must. I don't care what field you're in, because at some point, if you're able to speed up a task or to do something in 5 minutes when everybody else is doing it in an hour, you're going to look a lot better.
I would say otherwise. Very, very similar, but I would say otherwise. Don't learn the basic level tasks. Learn the fundamentals of them, learn the talking points, the reasons why things are what they are, but learn the higher level. For example, in software engineering, you do need to know what loops are. You do need to know what conditionals are and other things like those. There are 4 basics to programming. There are loops, conditionals. There's data saving, whether that's a variable or function, and then there are files. So you have the accumulation of all this stuff. So you go through those, and you learn why they are what they are. You learn the basics of some algorithms and why they are what they are. Sure, but you go to the higher level architecture after that. So after you have enough knowledge that you can talk about software engineering, then go to the higher level and start learning about architecture. Because junior level devs, the ones that are getting replaced, they don't know architecture. They're still operating on the old system of I know Java, and they they know all the syntax of Java. Maybe they can even code from memory every single word that is within the Java programming language. But if they don't know architecture, if they don't know how to scale that, if they don't know how to work with anything else because they only know that language, not software engineering itself, then they're not going to be able to go very far. If they know architecture, then they can apply that through the AI to have the AI do all the boilerplate stuff, have the AI operate as their junior dev with however many sessions that they have open. Like you have 5 sessions running at the same time, congratulations, you have a software engineering team. You're the architect for that engineering team. So if you know why people use tests, if you know how to use them, what they're supposed to do, if you know architecture, that way you can make this faster, more scalable, then you're able to use AI to its fullest, and you'll do better than the other guy.
So it sounds to me what you're saying really is that you need to understand processes and understand the process of getting things done. If you know those processes, the right questions to ask and the order, what's important, and understanding each of those steps, that's the skill that needs to be done. So yeah, I think that actually makes a lot of sense. I'm the biggest believer in, process. Understanding a process is the most important thing, and building a process is the most important thing. So I've got one thing, because I know we're getting probably towards the end of our time, but we are called Crypto and Coffee. So I'm going to try and throw this at you guys now, combining blockchain with the agents now, because let's put it back into perspective. If you're a company and you're essentially handing the keys to the company over to agents that are going to be communicating and executing tasks and everything like that, you are going to run into a potential problem of cybersecurity, and you will not know if somebody's infiltrated your agents, replaced them with a deep fake, and you're now at risk. How do we get all of this on the blockchain to make sure every single agent has a digital identity to prevent fraud and prevent our agents from being hacked? We got to get this all on the blockchain.
So I think that, when you put like one agent on the blockchain, it already has like, its token ID or whatever, right? So it can't really be copied down the line. So if you're running into a deep fake, obviously, well, something's wrong there. You're not watching what's going on. So for what's going on, I think that it's more or less about, watching what's going on behind the scenes with your company.
Yeah, I mean, David, you have anything? Imagine like having, like you said, you're tokenizing or just getting a digital ID for each one of your agents, so they can't be replicated or whatever, hacked. I mean, that's a big business idea for a cybersecurity firm, is getting your agents on the blockchain.
If they could get into your servers, what's there to stop them from copying files that have that ID, or copying the environment that has that ID and replacing the code for the model itself? Because all you need to do is replace the executable. Like, okay, sure, if you have the keys within it as opposed to on the environment and accessed by the environment, that could probably do it. But if they can get to your server, they probably have access keys for the other stuff as well. So I don't know how that would stop it, because the blockchain is only a ledger. So yeah, you have a record of transactions. You have and that helps with tracking things down, but it doesn't stop the fraud. If you have an AI that's operating on there, and it's going through a server, it has its own keys. You're passing it only the amount of money that it needs to, so it can't take too much at any one time. It's recording every transaction that it has to the chain. If someone gets in there between transactions and replaces that model and does the exact same stuff that it did before, let's say that they tested it out and they ran it on their own server for a bit to make sure that everything's the same. They copied a clone of your server, so that way they can experiment with that, because code is easy to copy. If they got access to your server, they could copy the entire environment very, very easily. Let's say that they ran it with that. They could effectively figure out, okay, well, here's exactly what's going on there, and let me run with that. Like, a lot of people have done that with applications. Applications, you're not supposed to be able to grab all that code, but they do, and you just get rips of applications all the time. So I don't see a way to stop that. Now, sure, that's the whole thing about security, though. But with security, you don't stop the attack. You make it infeasible. it's not worth the time and effort to do this as opposed to something else. So it's not, you don't make it impossible, you just make it difficult enough. Like, for example, with a house with locks on the doors. Yeah, someone could jump through the window. If they really wanted to get into your house, they could break through the wall. But enough security prevents most attacks from happening. Same with tech. You have like 7 levels of security. If they got access to your computer, they have access to everything they need. If they got access to the routing system between you and the server that you want to contact, they have access to everything they need because they now have the data packets. If they have access to your room and they're able to identify the movements that you're taking as you're typing on the computer, then they have access to everything they need. So the problem isn't stopping it; it's just making it infeasible. And then I get that, but I don't think that you're going to be able to just stop it and be able to prevent. And I don't think there's any ID that could identify an AI well enough for that, because that's just code. You can redo code.
Well, it'll all be cracked by a quantum computer in time anyway. So, yeah, I was thinking about that, like how, just the risk of having agents being infiltrated, or like, I was even reading about how now hackers are able to use deep fakes to infiltrate a Slack. Infiltrate Slack communities. All of a sudden, you get these ghost employees showing up that aren't really employees. They're just bad actors trying to steal corporate data. So I was trying to look, I was thinking, okay, well, if this happens to your agents, you're in pretty bad shape. You're kind of screwed. So then what if, before an agent is allowed to execute a task, it has to provide a credential, a verifiable digital badge, so to speak, right? Which would be then on the blockchain. So, I'm trying to think of ways to say, okay, well, I get it. If somebody hacks your computer, replaces an executable, they can just steal all of this stuff anyway. But I mean, we do this stuff with wallets. Like, why is it okay with our wallets and our Bitcoin? Why can't we create this kind of wallet and hash sequences for an agent? Why is it so different?
Well, that's the thing. It isn't really all that different. That's why people recommend going with hard wallets, because then your key isn't accessible via the computers. They have to go through the entire measure of encryption if they want to get it. Not making it impossible, making it difficult enough. So with a wallet on your computer, for example, if you access the wrong app, they have access to your local storage, your indexed DB, any browser-specific storage, and they could use JavaScript to access the rest of your computer if they wanted to, if you access the wrong application. If you get in on a session hijack attack with Discord, if someone tells you that they want to interview you, and you have to go over to their Discord, just like click on the button to verify and go through all of that stuff. Sure. That's the session hijack attack as well, though. But which means that they have access to your Discord session, not the credentials, but the session, and they can do whatever they want to as long as you don't lock out.
Yeah.
So, like with these things, if it is on the computer, if it's accessible via the internet, then it's accessible. That's why everyone recommends going with the hard wallet, because the hard wallet, it's not like it always has to ask that device instead of it being via the computer. So it's always via the signing mechanism, not the keys themselves. And the keys themselves, they'd have to go through that very, very difficult process of encryption to get those keys if they really wanted access. So like it's online versus offline in that case, just making it difficult enough. That would be the difference.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So why don't we end off today, as we dived a little bit in about the AI workforce and implementing AI for a lot of funded and tedious tasks in the company or corporate world. So let's end off in episode 12 here, and see you guys for episode 13. Not even sure what the topic is going to be, but there's a lot that we can talk about. For instance, the war that's going on right now with Iran and the US and how it's going to affect, inflation, how it's going to affect other industries like, business, AI, crypto, and stuff like that. But see you guys for the next episode, and stay tuned.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.